Okay. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. As you probably will be able to tell, this night is hosted by Nomad Academy. Yeah, at Nomad Academy, like I said, we help people make the transition from corporates into, for example, the startup world. But instead of us telling you how to do that, we think it's way better to actually put you in front of some role models. People who have actually made this transition, because it's scary, it's hard, it's difficult when you move into a new direction. So that's why we've got our three panelists here tonight who've all moved from a big corporate job into actually founding their own company, which is very mission driven. So I would like to ask you to actually introduce yourself, because I think you can do that way better than I possibly could. So if you'd like to start off, that'd be great.
Okay, cool. So hi everyone, my name is Natalia, and if you read my Instagram profile, I'm Brazilian business to do good in the world. I'm a co-founder of Form, and Form is plant-based nutrition with purpose, and I'm also a meditation teacher. I used to be a PR director, and I work in PR for about 10 years in luxury brands like Land Rover, Aston Martin, Hublot, Tag Heuer. And then I realized as a communicator I was not really sharing a message that I was passionate about. I was working for all these amazing brands, but I do not have a driving license. I don't even wear a watch. But I also didn't have a plan. And when you have a type of job that from the outside looks really sexy and it pays the bill, and almost it was like something that you were striving for, but when you're there, like you feel quite empty from the inside, it's really hard. It's really hard. And not knowing what to do, I thought, okay, I have an interest in wellness, so maybe I'm just going to start educating myself and see where it takes me. And all that I had was like a voice, like almost like a whisper, just telling me, okay, it's time for you to move. You've learned what you had to learn. Just take the leap of faith and go and educate yourself. So long story short, I ended up going to the US. I did a health holistic course in West Palm Beach. And then I study nutrition, like to understand like how the body works into a cellular level. And then I did a PT course, and then I moved to India, I did a yoga course, and then I went to Nepal, I studied meditation, and then I did another course, and that is in a leadership institute that was born in Google and developed by the thought leaders in neuroscience, emotional intelligence, and mindfulness. And cutting a long story short, whilst I was like educating myself, I was consulting, I was helping launching business, I was like doing a lot of different things because I also needed to pay the bills. And these days, I feel with like all the different things that I try, all the different things that I educate myself, it came together to the role that I have now.
Very good. Thank you very much. Gian,
So, hey everyone, my name is Gian. So yeah, to give you my background then, I grew up in the northeast of England, half Indian by background, my mum's white British, and I set up my first business when I was 13, ran that till I was just before my 16th birthday. I won't bore you with what it was in DVD manufacturing, but in short, by the time I got to about 16, the niche had died out and my parents said, focus on your GCSEs and your education. So I did, went kind of down that formal route, A-levels, uni, studied business and German, then landed my first corporate job, so that was always my goal. I went to Deutsche Bank in Frankfurt, was in wealth management, went there, and I guess it was my first flavour of corporate life, which on one hand it was great because again it pays the bills and it's fast paced and I like that. But again, I guess there was a bit of purpose missing and things like that. Came back, graduated, and then joined PwC. Worked there in London in financial restructuring. So I thought it put me in good stead either to be a lawyer, an accountant, or have a skill set. So I'm an accountant by background. But when I joined there, I was so performance driven and just focused on KPIs and numbers and being pretty ruthlessly competitive against my peers, because there were only 8 of us in that division, that if somebody mentioned things that are important today of mental health, well-being, inclusion, I used to just see it as the fluffy stuff and I didn't think much of it. But 9 months after joining there, everything just changed for me one night, personally and professionally. My dad used to travel a lot. He left and he went to India for work. And that night, he flew to India, and a week later, he didn't get on the return flight. Now, after that phone call, my dad was declared missing for 3 weeks, and 3 weeks later, live on the radio, I was about to go into BBC Worldwide News to plead for my dad. I found out he got murdered over in India. And for me, it was just such a normal life work in the city that suddenly this kind of happened to me. And it was something you think that happens to other people and not to myself. I took 3 months out of work to lead the investigation. I still lead it today. But after 3 months, I went back, because when you've got a team who cares for you, it feels like a second family. I think it makes a difference. But when I went back, a few things happened that just shaped everything. One was that, some of this is quite deep, and sorry if it affects anybody, but a colleague of mine jumped off the building at PwC, and my mind just was going everywhere, and I'm always very structured and planned in my life, and suddenly I just thought my mind was everywhere. And thanks to a few managers in the firm who were just there and they allowed me to share my story and speak up, I never took a day off sick again. I became more productive, and I soon realised that people were taking me into a side room and sharing stories with me. Mine was across the media at this point. And one after the other, I soon realised everybody has a story that too often we know nothing about, especially in a corporate setting. And if only we could share it more, it made me much more productive and enjoy my work. So long story short, I decided to leave. I finished my qualifications. I thought that was important, but I thought there's no time like the present. Be really open, I was in court battles. I lost everything. But I thought there's only one time when I jumped out. We'll go into that in a minute, I'm sure. And today I launched TLC Lions. Lion is mine and my dad's middle name. On a mission to ignite emotion in the corporate world through storytelling. So I brought together these people globally, and yeah, today we've had a footprint in 57 countries and support about 120 corporates. So it's been quite the journey. That's where I am today.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. Hi, I'm Abby. I'm co-founder and CEO at Compare Ethics, and my journey actually all began coming out of H&M with way too much clothes. So I was working with corporates at the United Nations. So my day job about 10 years ago was to help corporates develop what was then CSR strategies and then communicate them with the likes of the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, and in my early 20s, I'd go home to all of my friends in the middle of the countryside and obviously shout about how cool my job was. But they just would look at me like, it sounds quite interesting, but I actually don't really know what sustainability is or what this sort of thing is going on. And people that were interested, they didn't really understand the impact. And so when I was coming in between meetings at the United Nations and then going into shops, bringing out these bags, I just had this moment of just like self-disgust of like, how can I actually be making any real change, telling corporates what to do when I myself as a consumer don't actually have any idea how to go about being more impactful. And then that just created just a little seed in the back of my head. I then went and worked at the Confederation of British Industry, one of the biggest policy generation tanks and lobby groups in the UK. I launched their circular economy product. I tried to create the first working group. I had Amazon at an event. And again, the seed just sort of kept going and going, which was sort of like, there's a lot of corporates in the room. They have all this power to make so much change. Yet the reality is, this is not even slightly moving the needle in terms of what they're actually able to do. And I just got completely disengaged, demotivated, and just kind of had this sort of existential crisis of like, why am I here? What am I doing? Like, I've been working on 10 years on this. It was before David Attenborough made it cool. It was before any of this stuff happened. And I've now just got to a point of complete despair. Told my partner, James, about all of this, and he's marketing and product and technology in terms of his background. And we thought, do you know what, let's try and do something about it. At the time, the sustainable fashion market was very fragmented, and there wasn't actually that much product like we have now. And this was about 2.5 years ago. So I started a side hustle, which is a really scrappy Wix website, just put some stuff on there that I was interested in, created a bit of an organic following. And then it got to the point where it was like, it was taking up all of my free time, and like I don't have a weekend. And now I was like, oh, I'm really tired. I should probably do something about this. And then took the plunge last year to launch Compare Ethics full time. And now, shortly after I left my corporate job at the CBI, I then was approached by Google to do their first female founder residency program. So we've now built a ranking algorithm that verifies sustainable products and tells consumers exactly how each product is sustainable. And then fast forward today, you know, we've got like 50 clients and we're just closing up our investment round. And even though there are some obviously startup like ups and downs, just waking up in the morning, know it's your own time and you're doing something you're so passionate about, it makes all of that so worth it. So yeah, that's mine in a whistle stop.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, what I really like about your story is that you all seem to have that trigger moment where you're like, nah, none of this anymore, whatever that might be. But then from there, you embark on a new journey, right? But you don't know yet what that is. What were sort of the challenges that you had to overcome? Like, because you don't know yet what the future will be, so you don't know that you're going to be sitting here one day running a good, solid startup. So what were one of the challenges that you came across when you actually decided to, that's it? How did the journey go from there in terms of challenges that you had to overcome?
I don't mind doing that one because I actually was talking about it earlier. So one of the biggest challenges I ever had was creating a Facebook page. In my mind, I was like, I'm putting myself out there, most people are going to think I'm so stupid. And now when I think about it, I'm like, oh wow, like I have so much going on that I'm genuinely in actual problems. Like, how do you close this investor? What does he want? And it is generally he, sadly. But it's always interesting, and I think it really comes down to your mind. Like, your mind is actually the biggest inhibitor. Like, and at each point, you get so far of like this confidence thing, and then you have to get to that wall, and you're like, okay, how do I get over this one? But generally, it's like a mindset. I definitely feel that's been a big one.
Yeah. And how did you overcome that?
Oh, yeah, so you literally just have to be completely comfortable with being uncomfortable after a while. Like, that is the only way. There's like there is just no other way of doing it than just getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And in fact, I found the more that I'm uncomfortable, the more good stuff happens. I know that sounds really weird. But there's a fine balance naturally. You obviously want to feel like it's going somewhere. And actually, at the time, it is quite stressful. But on the back of that, you know, we started an organic following and, you know, all of those lovely things that came afterwards. But at the time, I found that was the best, just to do it.
Yeah.
I know it sounds like that.
If I might add something to what you shared, I think that trigger came to me once I was in an event like this. And I heard the sentence that if you're working on something that you're not passionate about, you're killing yourself. Like working on a 9 to 5, it's a slow form of suicide. And literally I posted that on my Instagram today because that like pierced my heart to say, oh my God, I'm killing myself. And I had to go and working on my mind. And I think everything that I did is what I shared today. But there is also practical aspects of overcoming and becoming ready. Because I feel that there is this misconception that people potentially look at us here and have that imagination that we are fearless. And that's definitely not the case. I think we were just tiny bit braver to take like the first step, and we were building the confidence with the process. And that building of the confidence comes by feeling fulfilled. Having the little moments where you get goosebumps, or like all of a sudden a coincidence, or something is almost like telling you, okay, keep going. And then you keep building your confidence. And it doesn't happen overnight. I really wish that I could tell you that it's like this, because if it was a walk in a park, everyone would do it. But I can generally say that if I can do it, everyone can. Like, I arrived in this country 13 years ago, I barely spoke English, and I built a successful career in communications, right? And it's valuing every experience that you went through as a stepping stone to you're supposed to go next.
Yeah.
I think for me, because I'm quite structured, it might come through that way. You know, I was like, right, I've got a plan of how am I going to leave, what am I going to do? But I was at PwC, I had to get my exams done. And then I thought, like, I know I've got to get out of here because I was working till like midnight every night. And it was just like, this is painful. And I think my biggest challenge was that my tribe of people in my network were all lawyers, accountants, bankers. They weren't even like my friends now who work at the BBC. It didn't even stretch that far. So everybody on almost your echo chambers, everybody was like, you can't do it, don't jump, you shouldn't. Like, what about your future? What about your stability? You're not going to buy a house. And I just realised, like, these like just don't get it. And I called them, I read a great book that called them like your red group. Those who they're just going to find the risks and the warnings. And they're good people when I've got a mad idea, but actually when my gut's telling me to do something, like they're not the right people to be around. So my challenge was finding them, and I thought I can either complain about it or do something. So I started going to things like Tech Hub Tuesday and making sure I left the office at 6 o'clock to get there in Shoreditch, going to things like Google Campus, that is part of that, and just actively approaching other founders. I mean, I was accountant at PwC. Like, hey, can I have a coffee? I really like your journey. Can you just sit with me? And then I just slowly built up my network of these people who were my green team, who were like, go on, jump, do it. People who, when you resign, say congrats and high five you, and not like what you're doing next, like, so it's just, and that's why I say to people now, like, congrats. So I think that was a challenge, but how I overcame it, I joined something called the New Entrepreneurs Foundation straight out of PwC, which just found my tribe of 40 other people. And straight away, I had, like, my lawyer today, he left Linklaters and now he's got his own startup. You know, my designer is my mate Toby. He was on that. And it just, I think, much like what you're doing in your programs, just jumping out and being around people, I think that's everything. You've got your own mindset, but having positive people, I've had a big reshift of people in my life, and they're pretty positive people who give you the get up and go every day.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really good. So sort of getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, right? Being brave, building a community. Like, I guess, like, yeah, one of the things we always try to do as well is build these communities of people that are actually encouraging you as opposed to. Can you talk a little bit more about building that network when you are in a situation where you feel like you want to do something new, but you're completely stuck in a bubble, potentially?
For me, it was not easy because it's exactly the story that you shared. Like, you know, you're crazy. It's like when I was telling my family back in Brazil, like, they thought I need an intervention. What are you going to do? Because literally, like, the year before, I got divorced as well, like, just to make the things, like, a little bit worse. So maybe she's going to be cuckoo. But maybe I was, you know, but thank God I did. But I also think in the age that we live, like, there is like books that can be our tribes. There are like podcasts that can like inspire us. There are like readings, there are events like this. And everywhere I would go, everything that I would listen, I would like stuck things in my flat. And I would have like a constant reminder. So every time that someone would come and bring worry into what I was doing, especially my mother, I would say, Mom, if you want to help me, just pray. You know, just light a candle, pray, but please, you know, don't. And I know they do out of love, right? They do out of like good intentions, but it doesn't help. So even if you cannot like find a physical friend, a physical person, take advantage of like the library of knowledge that is out there. And have like the post-its, have like on your phone, listen to the podcast because that really helps.
Yeah. So people on the immersion of it. Yeah, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. I'm going to definitely try that. Mine was also my mum. I think just watch out because you're always going to have like a camp around you that will say no, and I think that's so true. Then it'll be like, I actually thought in hindsight, I wish I'd done it sooner, and then I looked at why. Because listening to like the closest people around you, and some of them were really empowering, but it only takes someone like you've known the longest to be like, that is a really bad idea, don't do it. But in terms of tangibly what I was doing alongside all of those pieces of feedback, was I actually just put in the topic of sustainable fashion into Eventbrite. I went to every single event that I could find. Now that I've left that, and now let the team go to those events, and now I put into Eventbrite, what do investors want? Investor events, how to find investors. Literally, I'm very visual, and I'm very, I just like in-person interaction. So I just found just getting out there and absorbing the topics of what it was that I was interested in really helped me also understand my own development for product market fit, and just spending that time, and you can do that on someone else's salary, in the meantime of just understanding that knowledge centre of where you might want to fit in a new world, which I really, really enjoy. I still do that now.
I think just another thing, I don't know where everybody works, but somebody said to me, rinse PwC like a lemon. And I know that sounds bad, and they're one of my biggest clients today, but when I was there, I hooked up with the PwC Entrepreneur Network, whateverpreneur network, and got involved with the startup scene at PwC. Like, I went on the intranet, or whatever company it is, and surprisingly, they might offer, I don't know if it's a bank, they might offer loans to startups, just getting around that. So my internal day job as well, I tried to shift it a bit more to being around that.
Yeah, that's really nice. Does anyone in the audience already have a question? Something they'd like to know?
I do. It kind of relates to what you guys were just chatting about. As well as kind of a support network, did you also have mentors or like people that were kind of like shepherding you into the entrepreneurial experience?
Mine's interesting because one of my mentors, and she's been my mentor for 10 years, is the HR director at Rothschild. So she's on my board today. She's not entrepreneurial, but I think she just listened and let me kind of follow my purpose. I almost lived what she wished she'd done. I hope she's not watching this. But I think it was good because she helped me with the structure. She knew I didn't want to stay there and kind of helped me with that. But otherwise, I guess, follow my dad. My dad never worked for anybody in his life, so I kind of was like navigating through that, but nobody radiating at me. But LinkedIn, get the hell on there for all those founders or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have a mentor for ages, and then I found when you're building a tech product and you're non-technical, like you just get a tech mentor really fast, and so we found two, and then I'd say in the last 6 to 8 months, I found the most valuable piece of advice from just building that advisory team around you. So we now have an M&A lawyer who's like really making sure what we are today is fit for tomorrow. We have head of Google for Startups, Marta, who's really helping us just in general. She's a serial entrepreneur, just people that have been through it. So depending on like the sector that you're in and the products that you're building, yeah, as you said, and that was mainly through events or through LinkedIn, like getting a really authentic message out to people that really shows that you actually genuinely care about their advice. People are more than happy generally. I've actually had really quite high conversion rates. I can send you what I've sent. I'm not sure there's any magic other than the fact that I generally love what they do, which I thought was good. Yeah.
I don't, but I wish I have. So if there is any mentors that wish to mentor me.
But again, programs.
But having said that, and that might sound a little bit woo-woo-woo, I guess I have spiritual mentors. And spirituality, it is really where I built my inner strength. So maybe I do not have like a technical mentor, maybe I do not have like someone who has done what I wish I have done, but I have like monastic teachers, I have like a whole range of people that I go to that allows me to build the resilience and the wisdom to learn from my own experience. And I'm pretty sure like my path would be a little bit quicker if I had a mentor to take me along the way. And probably I think I need one now. But as I said, finding, and I'm not talking about religion as well, because for some people, you might go to church, for some other people, you might go to a Buddhist temple, for another people, whatever that it takes for you that makes you realize there is a higher intelligence than yours, which I think actually comes from a very humble place, because think we tend to be quite pretentious to think like we are like the cleverest thing on earth. Like we are not, right? So acknowledging that there is an invisible hand that like supporting when you're going through the direction of helping people, it helps me a lot.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, and I think from you guys I picked up like don't be afraid to actually reach out to people you might not know and tap into their passion.
Yeah, because I think mine, I'm again structured, would probably kill so many people. But like I literally was like, imagine I had this huge empire, what would be the 5 main divisions? And I wrote them: finance, marketing, operations, sales, and then and measurement of how I measure the impact. And then I've got an advisory board of 5, and one of them heads up each one. But I realised I was having an advisory board and I hated every second of it, because I'd speak to one about that and they didn't get it. So now I just have one-to-one every month with each of them, 5 hours per month with each of them. But again, some are better than others, but they've all got an emotional connection, so I think, to the purpose.
I was just listening to that and I'm really scrappy and like quite chaotic. so I was just like listening to that, I was like, wow, I so should have done that. But mine was really organic. It was like, someone said to me, like, so one of my mentors was like, oh, you want to raise investment? Go find a financial mentor. Now that mentor is that financial mentor is now an strategic advisor and investor in our business. So mine was very organic, like what are the skills and things that I don't know that I really need help on? And now, to be fair, if I think about it, I've probably got a couple of gaps to fill, but I'm going to try that out.
That's really good. There's another question there. Yeah.
So I'm really related in terms of structure. I did it I'm in corporate as well. Worked in Dubai, high stress, still working. I've just got a terrible meeting.
Oh,
this
God.
I'm getting out. I love what I do. I do love the structure. I do love knowing that when I wake up in the morning, bang, these are my 10 tasks. Your purpose can be redefined in different ways. I think some people are obsessed with one purpose, one idea, and I can't really relate to that. It's a multi-potential, and structure helps achieve those multi-dimensions. But the question I think I just have for you guys is, when you come from that kind of background of, I think generally now we're all quite highly educated, university, follow that kind of path, how do you develop those organic relationships that turn into advisories based on an economy that's functioned generally on paying people to do a service, you pay these expensive designers? That's something that terrifies me, is that I've got this great idea, I've reasoned it with a few people, but to get the next stage of getting a designer to sort this bit, or getting a legal team to sort out contracts, etc., is a real, in the structure bit, you need those things, but in the kind of spirit of entrepreneurialness, you don't have the money, you don't have the finance, you're young. So I'm really wondering how did you go from that level to taking that next step, getting those people to do stuff potentially through influence, and that's the bit I'm...
What's your skill set? Interest.
Like human rights, worker welfare, ethics.
Because I bet there's a designer out there who might need that help, or a lawyer who works in that space, because I offer my accounting in exchange for legal advice, and my accounting to my designers to do my designs. So that's one thing I start with no money. It's just a little idea of exchange.
You said that because it's a big idea, right? It is a big idea, it's like revolutionary idea, is a pioneering idea. And the fact that you are someone who is a go-getter and who has a structure, you can like project manage it and see yourself as that person, but also understand that you cannot do on your own. Right? You can. Like I wouldn't be able to do form on my own because I have a very specific skill set, and like running a business on your own, it's really hard, and no one does it. Like if you think of like Richard Branson, for example, like he praises himself for surrounding himself with people who is smarter than him. So I think as like stepping stone is stop putting the idea out there. Stop putting the idea out there and see like the leads that you get, see like how that becomes a magnet for you to attract the people who can potentially be a co-founder or another co-founder. And then you can take the idea off the ground without like feeling that massive weight on you, and understanding that their idea needs people. I think that would be like my first thing to say. But I think it's brilliant. really brilliant, and it should be done because that's the other thing. Sorry, because no one cares about building this, and it's amazing that you do. So you should do something about it.
I'm just thinking because I suppose half of it is building your tribe. Like I work with CBRE, WSP, JLL, those guys, and I know already that I could probably connect you with them or the president of RICS. People like that who will just give you insight. And those people who are so senior love giving back, hence LinkedIn. Hey, can you give me 15 minutes? I'm a young entrepreneur. Like, do you want to join my advisory board?
Yeah.
Like, will you join it? Like, okay, I guess so. Next thing, and then you straight out to the UN or whoever. Hi, my advisory board exists of CBRE. I love a conversation. Advisor, will you come along with me? Yeah, would you mind, please? I'm just cheeky.
Yeah. I think that's really good advice, and I think so. What I thought was quite good is around. I love the idea, and I could definitely talk through how we did ours. But I think one thing that I found around traction and with that type of thing is very much around having a really clear value proposition and having tested that. I'd probably test it with day-to-day who would buy it, and then once you've tested it with them and got that feedback, then go to the people, the top people that you would want on your advice, because even then you just come across so much more well validated. The earlier, the more nebulous your idea, the more data that you need, obviously. Lean Canvas really is a framework that we used really early on to help us navigate what the value proposition was, and I can send you links and stuff to that, which was just a start, and then you can test it and see.
Amazing, really good. Is there any other question, or are you live in the audience? I can keep going. No. Yeah.
So Natalia, you actually mentioned that you love to kind of educate yourself further, and you also defer to podcasts and books. So I'm actually curious from all of you, are there any podcasts or books that actually helped you in being inspired and also in pursuing this path?
Yeah. So I've got quite a long list. How I Built This, amazing podcast. For women founders, I've got a really great new one that I've just found, which I can send the link for. But it's about raising investment. To be fair, it's applicable across. Core books, Lean Startup, that is honestly, and then 0 to 1. Those 2 books should be on your Bible around how you're building a business. And then the more interesting ones, which for me was more the spiritual play, was around Marcus Aurelius meditations, Stoic philosophy. So Stoic philosophy is very much around being very comfortable with, like you said, having courage, but you're still going to be you still basically in times of fear still have courage, and it's the easier way of understanding how to help your mind through that process. So I kind of mix up business with Stoic philosophy, and I find that works.
Did everyone get the names? Can you repeat the books again? So 0
to 1, and then Lean Startup, Marcus Aurelius Meditations, and there's a few more other Stoic ones that I can share as well.
You mentioned the podcast How I Built This.
Oh yeah, How I Built This is by the guy who built LinkedIn, who runs that podcast. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's the real one.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Massive scale.
Yeah, massive scale.
Oh, is that the different one?
Yeah.
I've got them both on
He's
my
on
thing.
them as well.
So okay, fine. Sorry, get them confused.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah, mine is, I'll be honest, for the first year and a half, I read a book when I was still at PwC, and that's where 2 of the businesses, so there's 2 businesses, and I mentioned one, but which is Tim Ferriss' Tools of the Titans, which give me a book like that and I run a mile. I really don't like reading books, but it was just so helpful because it's split between wealth, wisdom and health, is it? Yeah, and you can use it like a bit of an index type thing and go through it. It was just so helpful for me, so like that one. And then also, I never know his surname, Derek Sivers, Everything You Want. It's a book like that big, it's tiny, it's fantastic. Somebody sent me after being on a podcast, and it's brilliant. It's like 40 lessons for an entrepreneur, and I've literally highlighted the hell out of it, paged it, reread it. I think I've read it 3 times. And then podcasts are masters of scale, which, to be honest, I've only just got into it because for the first year and a half I was just go. I'm in the gym and I'm still working, I'm doing emails. It was non-stop. Now I've taken a step back. Right now it's at a different level of where I'm trying to go. So again, probably too extreme. I'm listening to like 5 podcasts a week. I'm in the gym, I'm working out, and listening to a podcast. But that's just the way I like to do it, right? And massive. It's been so good when you're going through shit times to listen to the Airbnb founder say that the number used on the customer service was his number, and he used to pick it up at 2 a.m. And I'm like, you know, and now look where he is. I'm just like, this is great. It keeps you going when there's no tribe around you. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
A recent book that I read is Shoe Dog. That is have you read it?
Not yet, but I have it.
And I have to be, I didn't buy it, like my intern gave to me, and she's super smart girl, like went to Cambridge and everything, and it's okay, I read this book, and I literally had like tears going down my eyes when I finished it. It's an amazing, it's about this story about like how he built Nike, and there is that really the spirit of an entrepreneur, and then I think that's why I loved reading it so much. And also, if you think about brands that have like that elasticity that Nike has, right? There's not a lot of brands that have that power, and how he built this is amazing, like the culture and everything. And How I Built This is a podcast that I really like. And there is another one called Secret Leaders, and I'm basically plugging a friend here. But actually, he podcasts. It just went on the list of like the top 100 podcasts in the whole world. He was just like telling me, I passed like Oprah, and Oprah is also a really good another one. So.
That's really nice. A bit of a different question actually, because by now you probably also have employees. And sometimes what we have on program is that people throughout the program might realize, yes, they want to transition, but they've also maybe discovered that they're not going to be a founder themselves, but they are maybe a number 2, 3, or whatever it might be. But then they struggle because they've always worked, let's say, in banking, and they don't know how to apply for a startup. What advice would you give to someone who is applying for a startup for the first time? Like, to what extent do you need to approach that in a different way?
Well, I can give you an example right now because we are currently hiring. So if anyone is interested.
Another plug, really good. No setup, I promise.
CM communications. Always an opportunity, exactly. Anyway, but we have like this girl, on paper, amazing. Just not going to say too much because she's watching this. But when you go to work or applying to work for a startup, be as authentic as possible. Do not feel you have to impress the person that you're talking to, because people can just smell when you're not genuine. And when you have a small team, when you have culture, you really want like to get who is joining the team, what is the bad, what is the good, because in a startup you have like no place to hide. When in a big corporate job, you know, what you do and what you do not do, you know, I can speak from experience. Sometimes you can just like hide, but in a startup, in a small team, where you have like to be pretty diverse, you have to be super straightforward. And if in an interview itself, you just come as someone who literally like has all the questions as a textbook, as perfect as the answers are, I don't hire, because it's, you know, there's something there that they're trying to hide.
Yeah.
And here there's no place to hide.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's been such an interesting journey, because at the start, people were always saying, people's the hardest thing. I was like, really? I've got a great team. None of them are with me anymore. I had to fire somebody last week for the first time. And then somebody who in interview, great, can talk a good talk. I can talk a good talk in interview, right? So I've got PwC somehow, just by doing that. And he obviously fooled me. Again, where is this going?
We can talk about it after, don't we?
No, but there's different people. Everybody's got different strengths, but I think it comes down to the right cultural fit. And when you are a team of 3 or 4 and you're literally 25% of a team, there is nowhere to hide, and there's no point lying, because you're not going to then enjoy it. It doesn't work for us, but equally I challenged myself, because then I thought I need to do some more work on my culture. So I did listen to the Netflix Founders podcast about actually just writing down what's important to me. We like efficiency and speed. You know, I'm sure a lot of people like that, but that's important to us. I like being genuine and open when there's an issue. There's certain things that I thought, what are the 5 things close to my heart? And now, like he did, on their first day, I take them through those 5 in every single interview. And for this replacement, which had 2 new joiners this week, I was just sick. So in this interview, I honestly was just like, I'm just going to take you through 15 scenarios, and there were 15 mistakes that I've seen happen in the business, just because I wanted to see how that, not no test, I actually wanted to see how they genuinely would react in that situation. I didn't know the answer to everything, but I wanted to see that we were aligned in the thinking. And one of them, again, culture, I like to have fun, I like to enjoy what we do, and one of them was just so, I was like, what makes you laugh? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's important to you, and I was like, and as a team we get shit done, but we also have fun and live, right? So again, I don't know whether that answers any question. But
That's it.
Yeah, also hiring, just going to put that out there. But so where we post our jobs are working on startups and the jobs at the moment. But generally I found for us that actually we went through this Google program, and ever since we've come out with this like core set of metrics and values that we've identified similar to that, but we have to hire against them. And actually I find, as much as I'm scrappy most of the time, having structure in that area is really valuable. So I think it's more around personal alignment at that stage as a startup. So like equally interview them, right? Because you're going to spend a lot more time and you're probably going to be feeling more invested than you probably did previously. So like you connecting with that person. So one of our interns now is like our account exec. It kind of evolved like that. So she was like fashion intern, London living wage. She first of all couldn't believe that in the fashion industry someone was paying London living wage, and that she actually got the job. And then since then she's just grown, and she's so passionate. She literally says to me on a Friday, what can I do at the weekend? And I said, just read, just relax, because I don't want, like, if there's not stuff to do, and I've never asked her to work at the weekend anyway, but that's when you know that you're having such a great time working there. And went home and I called my mum, I was like, she really wanted to work at the weekend. Just having someone that is equally passionate about what you're doing, and that you both feel like you're on that journey. Then when there are, busy times, like we had to present at Deloitte a few weeks ago, the tech stack wasn't ready the night before, I didn't go to bed till 1 AM, she was there at that time. So you have to think like there are times, like as a startup, that you're going to have to do that together. So both of you, or as a group, you're all going to want to feel that that's the right group for you, basically.
Super important. Is there another question? Anyone?
Got one more. In terms of skill set, like what's the most important skill that you think, the top 3 skills that you kind of had to acquire in the first, I guess, year? I think after that you finesse your abilities, but in the first year in particular.
Yeah, I don't mind doing this one again. So I think for me, it sounds so cliche, but it's so true, which is grit. Like, I know people say this all the time, but grit is the only thing that's going to get you through what is, as much as they're an amazing upward things, in a day, it can also be like the most sinking time, and you start contemplating, like you were saying before, like there is all sorts of emotions that go with doing that. But grit does pull you through very quickly, and then you access that higher time, and no one can touch you now, and it's the most amazing feeling ever. So, I found that grit has been something that really has helped, like, me evolve and get a new set of skills. Like, there is so much that I know now that I didn't even know 3 months ago. You learn so much, which is the great bit about it, definitely.
I would say that normally, like, the skills, I don't know if you're hoping to listen an answer that is a technical skill. I think if you're like looking into starting something, grit and like the skills that are considered like soft skills are way more important than the technical one. I'm not undermining the importance of having things well executed. I'm in no shape or form like saying that having someone that understands finance, it's very important. But having the skill of like caring for what you do is fundamental, because if you're not deeply passionate, if you do not like really believe in what you do, like there's no way it can be done.
I think for me it's probably not dissimilar, all of those. It's understanding myself a lot more. So whilst running the business, I was like, and actually, I don't know whether you've read the book that's changing things. It's the 5 a.m. club at the moment.
I tried to read it.
Right, and now I get up at 10 to 5 every morning.
Really?
And it's honestly, it's changing everything for me. Another story, another day. But I think it was just getting to know me. We're all different, and I'm very creative up until 12. So I'll get up at 5 and up until 12. I know that's when I'll do my marketing, or I'll come up with a new strategy and things like that. In the afternoon, then I take my client meetings, because I can still do them and be more reactive, and I'm more listening and passively understanding rather than getting involved. Or then knowing what makes me tick. You know, I ended up going to 16 countries last year for work, and that gives me a buzz. So and then we'll get into this like meditation. You know, I meditate every morning and stuff like that. Things that really working on my personal development and turning that into a skill of every single day, just doing something that, because then the business just flies. Because otherwise, if I'm not learning, then the business doesn't move. Is what
And I think it's understanding that like the most valuable asset that you have for your business is your mind and is yourself. And like investing on that is never a waste of time.
True.
Yeah. We came up with this concept of MVP, as in minimum viable person. Like, as in your business is only as viable as you are.
That's true.
And if you don't take care of that, you're done. Like, see it over and over and over again. Any other questions? Maybe on this side? Anyone?
Yeah. As a creative person, I think the thing that often stalls me when I get past the idea stage is that like fear of business talk and all of those really like serious things that you're a bit like, I don't really want to do. Like, do you have any tools or anything, any like tips on how to overcome that?
I guess the first thing for me, just on the idea thing, you've probably seen this before, they always say like the worst idea with the best execution is far better than the best idea with no execution. And like putting that idea aside, as long as you've got that grit, already you've got great energy. Yeah, you can though, you can though. You've got like you're just likable. You can get stuff done. This isn't answering your question. No, but just I think I wouldn't worry too much about that. In terms of brushing up, I don't know who your buyer is. Like for me, mine are corporate, so I have to transition what I speak internally, problem statements and stuff in the startup world. I have to turn into like overcoming barriers to a corporate language. So I think just Google's powerful. Just go online, reading, absorbing, thinking. If I was in their shoes, what do I want to read? Be yourself. Be yourself. Be authentic. Turn up. Like.
So my question is, so what do you think? Is the contradiction between being creative and being in front of people with confidence?
I don't think it's so much being in front of people with confidence. I think it's maybe more taking the leap or being in an area where things like you're in charge of things like finance, and you're in charge of things that actually you're not familiar with, and so you don't necessarily feel like you're as good as. And I know that there's obviously learning with everything, but I think sometimes when you start a business, knowing you've got those fundamental, maybe like set skills that will get you off the ground because you know how to work in finance and you know how to, and you know, you can, those other things you can learn and pick up as you come along. And maybe it is a case of joining up with somebody who's got those skills. But I think for me, that kind of sometimes feels like and maybe it's the way I've grown up or the way my family are, and they're very like, oh, we've got all these great ideas, this is lovely. And there's not so much that leader who has like shown that you can execute X, Y, and Z. But it's, I feel like that's I kind of always get to these idea stages and I'm like, oh, that's nice. And I'm like, yeah, that would be nice for someone. Like,
to be accountable. Sorry, somebody said this to me in the early stages. I haven't got into like, this whole business came from a podcast. Somebody said to me, whatever industry you're going to go into, construction, whatever, people can disagree on this, but they say create a podcast or a blog or something where you're going to interview people in that space who are very senior and respected. They all love to go on a podcast. Tell me what your views are on this construction industry or how you're changing labour. That of course they're going to come on. But what that's doing behind the scenes is building your network. And suddenly you've got access to all of these people. And what they said to me on this was, go out tonight and tell 10 people that you're going to launch a podcast. Right? But I did. And suddenly then, I don't know what you're like, but telling 10 people who are going to hold you to it, like, how's that podcast going? Have you done it? And if you feel that maybe the execution, I've got many weaknesses, but if it's the execution bit, then do that. And say, will you challenge me or be my like accountability buddy or whatever the hell it is. Like, and make them do it, make them keep on top of you. And get that shit done.
And I think it's the trying. It is the trying. It's like not having the expectation that you're gonna know everything and be perfect at everything that you're starting. Like no one in the world is, and whoever tells that they're lying.
Yeah.
So I'm a creative, so I really resonate with what you're saying, and I do have a basic understanding of finance, which is very basic. But my co-founder is an engineer with an MBA, but it's not because he has that brain of execution, that brain that is very rational, that is very structured, that when we go to meet investors, I sit there and I shut up. No, I don't, because I know without my creativity, without my passion, without my crazy thinking, let's put it that way, we wouldn't be where we are. So never see your creative skills as less than the rational skills, because they are complementary. Like one is nothing without the other.
I think that's clear often, isn't it? Like you get to this stage in your career and usually it means you're quite good at what you do in your career, that you're thinking you're taking that step. So you're like, you're the best of where you are, so you're then to become a novice in this complete unknown. Like it's fear, I guess, is the only thing that holds you back.
But get someone to help you with that. Like understand the basics so no one can fool you. Like you're not stupid, like you know the basics. But like I see as a waste of time investing your energy where you are a 2 or 3 to try to become a 4. Like spend your time where you are a 8, 9 so you become a 10. And get like the rest to do the things where they are, the 9, 10.
Thank you.
Absolutely. There's a question in the back, yes.
Yeah, I'm interested in how you chose to start your own organisation rather than perhaps join something existing. I mean, was it just that there wasn't anything doing what you wanted to do, or that you just really wanted to start your own thing?
I did, and then I quit. I joined a startup straight out of PwC actually, heading up their partnerships, and I guess it's a personal thing. I like driving things forward. Maybe it's my way. I don't know. It just wasn't going to work. I think at PwC, when you can bring your stuff to the table in a corporate, there is so many advantages to a corporate, by the way. I think I wouldn't be where I was if I didn't have that experience. I'll just put that out there. But I joined there. When you are a small team, and I've had people in my team who are maybe too headstrong, it just wasn't working. Like I had my wacky ideas and I wanted them. And I thought, and I had this passion and purpose and I couldn't even do it there. So I thought, I've just got to do it myself. So I don't know, I think I was more employable in a big corporate, to be honest, than probably in a startup myself.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So when I was originally a sustainability consultant, the firm itself that I was originally at was quite small. And so at that point, I was able to be like very hands-on in the company and help it grow from like a team of 5 to 10 people. I was in the senior leadership team, and that for me, I think gave me confidence. I think once you've got that sort of confidence, at that point it was around, I know that I probably could give something a go, but I just haven't quite seen the right product or the right opportunity. So it was like market opportunity, and I kept coming up with some ideas, and then I was like, no, that's not going to work. And then it probably took another 4 or 5 years where I was so like, this is a great opportunity, no one is doing it, the market's going to move, I'm going to help it if I can. And that was really where my journey started, around taking the plunge, which was actually I would rather do it for myself. But getting the confidence, I have to admit, is like a thing like that.
Do you have a question as well? No.
I've got quite a few. First, thank you so much, because each of your stories is really inspiring. And I actually resigned from my job in December.
Congrats.
Thank you. And honestly, I've never felt better. I feel so much happier. So I guess you've all got different stories in terms of how you came to your business that you're doing what you're doing now. But how did you know at the time that it was the right idea? Was it more sort of instinctive? Was there other things that kind of happened? Like you just mentioned that it was an opportunity that kind of came to you in that sense, but how did you know for sure? Because obviously to back an idea and to really commit to it takes so much time and effort and energy, and you want it to be the right one. So how did you?
And this is like my totally honest answer, and I hope this does not sound like a cop-out, but I don't think you ever will know. And honestly, because the market, depending on the market that you're in, markets can shift so quickly. Yeah. So as a founder, your brain should basically always be there. Like, do I have the right product market fit? I mean, achieving product market fit, what does that actually mean? If like idea is here and commercialization is here, on a scale of 1 to 10, where am I? Yeah. And then it's like, but that initial step, I think using some tools around like lean canvas and being real, I mean, I'm in a tech company, so for us, being really clear on what we're testing and how we're testing it, what does good look like around traction with our users. I think being as scientific as we can, without actually being, I mean, I'm not a scientist, but like really honing in on that really helps in taking the idea into some sort of commercialization. Where we're at now, we've still got a long way to go. I'm having this conversation with my co-founder, my advisor all the time, because literally, if everyone has to know, I thought it was my algorithm just showing me like sustainability information, but no, the market is massively shifting. So you have to constantly make sure that the product you're building is relevant for the market. Yeah. So I'm sure if you ask me again in a year, I'll probably say the same thing, because in the world that we live in, a lot of these markets move quick.
So I was quite structured. It started as a podcast. I was going to interview people with amazing stories, and then but it is taking opportunities. I saw somebody on Dragon's. This is how extreme LinkedIn can go. I saw somebody pitch on Dragon's Den, and it's quite a deep story. I found her on LinkedIn, messaged her. She met me the next day for coffee, and she said, "Turn this into a business. Turn this something bigger." So right, the next day, a mental health report came out from Deloitte, October 2017. I printed it straight out, highlighted it, found the author at the end of it, LinkedIn'd her, Elizabeth Hampson, went to meet her. She agreed straight away, let's meet for coffee. Like, obviously she's like, wow, you read my report, that's so great. So I met her, and I said, look, somebody's told me this should be bigger. What do you think? You've done the stats, I've read it. She's like, me too. So I was like, right. So I put my 10 assumptions down, and I still do this today though, and they shift. Like the 10 things that I'm assuming. I bought myself a whiteboard for 15 quid, right? On Amazon, best investment. I've still got it today. And I just wrote down the 10 things that I'm assuming about this business, that it's all corporate. Would corporates pay for a speaker? Is there an issue with mental health in the workplace? Like, there is an issue with like all the things I'm assuming, flipped into 10 questions, created a type form, free questionnaire online, pinged it to every lawyer, accountant, banker, because that's all I had in my network, because they were going to be my buyer, and said, could you ping it to your HR manager? Could you fly it around there? Prayed all the responses were coming in, annoyed every friend on WhatsApp and Instagram, and then sat and looked at the responses. And then I had a bit of data of how much they would pay, are they interested? Then I just said, cool, now can you introduce me to that HR person in person? And then it's like, shit, I haven't got a product. So it's a bit of structure, but also a bit all over and going with your gut. So it's very much that change, so different to back then now. That's what I did.
I have a slightly different perspective, as in basically everything. It comes from not knowing but feeling for me. And I'm not saying that I always going in the right direction. I'm not saying that every single decision that I made was successful, but it's almost like that feeling, okay, this feels right. And it's like beyond like rationals, it is beyond yes and no's. And sometimes, depending on the idea that you have, like depending on like how pioneering it is what you want to do, you cannot rely on data because you're carving the path. So you're there like literally in the front of like something that potentially is not coming, but that is very needed in the front, in the future. So like believing in that gut, in that wisdom, that it doesn't come from books, that it doesn't come from data, is very important. And I'm going to completely butcher, but there is a sentence of Einstein, and he says that we live in a society. So our wisdom is not our gift, and like the rational mind is our servant, and then we live in a society that is like valuing the servant and forgetting the gift. Google it and you'll probably have a much better version of it. I can just quickly Google, but also understanding the value of your instinctive mind and perceiving that as valuable information.
Yeah, because I think on that, just
I'm
the
going
gut
to Google
thing.
the quote now.
There's two extremes though, because you look at, I do with all of that data, I then used to go into the gym, then into the sauna for 10 minutes by myself with no technology and say, right, does this feel right? Should you do it? Is that true? What do you think? And there's nothing better. Even in interviews now, I tune into my gut when I'm looking at them and I'm asking questions. Does this feel real? Does this feel open and transparent? But on the data side, like I was listening to a podcast again the other day, the colour that they chose for Google to get to that blue, is it Melissa Myers? Her name? The data that she went through to find that beautiful crushed lavender blue, and then she found it. So that was data driven. So she's the extreme, but I do believe in the gut as well. I think it's finding what works for you in the middle.
Yeah, I think there's like almost like, without getting too scientific about it, there's always like this golden ratio basically between like rational and emotional, and I think that there's a lovely nexus in between that I find works really well, because there's going to be so many times where like data is inconclusive and so many times where it's like, do you know what, I'm having a really bad day anyway, how is this affecting my decision making? So like I try and find like a nice medium, but it's obviously difficult. Made loads of mistakes in the process, but at the same time when you get there, it's great.
And I think that's what the quote says, is that the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. It's much better than what I said.
Yeah, due to time, we're going to have the last question. My last question is actually, I mean, you guys are now sitting here, and there's a lot of people in the audience. What's the one thing you want to give them or help them take away from your own experiences and from this moment here?
I don't mind going. So I was told no so many times before I got told to do it. So for me, whatever it is that you're thinking about, whatever it is that took you here, just take one step. Like it could be that Facebook page. It could literally just be sitting for 20, 30 minutes, working out a brainstorm, whatever works for you. Just take like one step, and then at that step, take one more, and just focus on that one step. And it transpires into much bigger, but trust me, it's well worth it.
I would say, I don't know whether it works, but I had a lot of people around me moaning, a lot of problems, and I started writing down all of those problems every day and finding a solution to try and come up with new ideas, and actually got rid of negativity, and it was actually fueling my ideas. So I recommend doing that. Still got my list.
I think for me it's just whatever it is that you do from a place of wanting to benefit others. And when you do that, I promise you, there is an invisible hand right there that is gonna help you. And I said that from my own journey, like go beyond yourself and realize if there is like a deep urge inside of you that is going to be beneficial to others, like you are very much needed in this world. And there is not a lot of people putting themselves out there. So from the moment that you take the first step, know their hand is kind and supportive and it's going to hold you. I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm not saying that, sometimes it never gets easy, but be confident that faith is actually having confidence on the unknown. And I think that's it.
Thank you so much.